My mother-in-law lost control at my baby shower. She insulted me, tried to name my baby, and ended up being arrested after causing a massive scene. I'm a 29-year-old woman, happily married to my amazing husband Gary, and currently expecting our first child. This journey has been nothing short of thrilling. Gary and I have been together for years and tied the knot 4 years ago. We began trying to conceive last year and were ecstatic when we found out I was pregnant 6 months ago. We've weathered life's highs and lows together, and the news of our baby has brought an entirely new level of joy and connection to our relationship. Every day brings us closer to meeting our little bundle of joy, and we're counting down the days. Pregnancy has been an emotional whirlwind, from the excitement of that first positive test to the magical moment I first felt our baby kick. Gary has been my anchor throughout the entire experience. He's attended every prenatal appointment, we've been reading parenting books side by side, and he's even helping set up a charming nursery for our soon-to-arrive baby. We're deep into baby prep mode now, brainstorming names, arranging the nursery, and mapping out our future as parents. Gary is over the moon about becoming a dad, and seeing his enthusiasm warms my heart. He's been fully committed, splitting the responsibilities and sharing in every part of this journey with me. We're savoring every moment as we get ready to welcome our child into the world. 2 months ago, we decided it was finally time to share our big news with family. We had crossed the important first trimester milestone and felt confident enough to announce it. We hosted a lunch, inviting our parents, close relatives, and friends. They came expecting a typical gathering, but when they noticed my visible baby bump, their expressions shifted to pure happiness and surprise. My mother teared up the moment she saw me and realized I was expecting. She completely understood why we had waited to tell everyone and was thrilled at the idea of becoming a grandmother. But Gary's mother, Barbara, had an entirely different reaction. Rather than joining in the excitement, she grew visibly upset. She felt excluded and accused me of deliberately hiding the pregnancy from her. I tried to explain our reasoning. We simply wanted to wait until things felt more secure. But she remained angry and refused to speak to me further. Her disapproval cast a shadow over what should have been a celebratory moment. Throughout the evening, Barbara barely acknowledged my presence. She was cold, dismissive, and even treated my mother, who had always been kind to her, with disrespect. She stayed glued to her phone while everyone else chatted and enjoyed the gathering. It was obvious she was upset, and her bitterness was on full display. She openly complained that she had no idea I was pregnant and lamented the lost time with her future grandchild. My husband and his brother noticed the growing tension. It eventually reached a point where I had to step outside to gather myself. My mom followed and comforted me until I felt composed enough to return. When the evening ended, Barbara made it a point to say goodbye to me last, still cold and distant, after observing the concerned looks from Gary's sister and our parents. Later, Gary walked his parents to their car, where a heated argument broke out. I could hear them from the foyer. Barbara took the opportunity to lash out, criticizing me further. Thankfully, all the other guests had already left, leaving only our immediate family behind. She furiously told Gary that she was shocked by my audacity to keep the pregnancy from her, claiming I didn't value family. Gary calmly responded that the decision had been mutual. We both chose to wait until everything was okay before telling anyone. But Barbara wasn't having it. She raised her voice. "Barbara, this is my grandchild we're talking about. I had a right to know from the start." "Mom, it's not about rights. We made this decision together. She just wanted to be cautious." "Cautious? I'm her mother-in-law. She should have trusted me with this. This is all her fault." That's when Gary lost his patience. Until then, he had stayed calm, but hearing his mother blame me pushed him over the edge. His face turned red as he told her plainly that if she was blaming anyone, she should blame him too, because it was just as much his choice. He told her to stop overreacting and let it go. Barbara shot back that he was letting me control everything, and as his mother, she should have been the first to know. Gary stood firm. He asked her to stop attacking me, told her he loved her, but said she needed to leave and cool off before she said something she'd regret. She stormed off, leaving Gary standing there, visibly disappointed and frustrated by her behavior. I hadn't even realized I was crying. The sting of her words had left me both hurt and confused. Gary noticed right away, rushed to me, and gently brought me back inside. My parents, sensing the tension, stayed with me until I calmed down. But Barbara wasn't done. Later that night, I received a message from her that immediately sent my anxiety through the roof. The message read, "I must say I'm incredibly disappointed in you. You knowingly withheld important information from me, and I find that unforgivable. I can't believe you would deprive me of the joy of knowing about my grandchild from the very beginning. This is not how family behaves. It's disrespectful and deeply hurtful. And instead of apologizing for your immaturity, you're driving a wedge between me and my son. Shame on you." Her words cut deep. I felt a flood of emotions, anger, sadness, disbelief. I showed the message to Gary, and he was furious. He couldn't believe his mother would go this far, placing all the blame on me. He immediately called her, warning her not to send me any more distressing messages, and made it clear that if she continued this behavior, he would cut off contact altogether. His firm response seemed to shake her. Faced with the very real possibility of being cut off, Barbara finally began to backpedal. Rather than accepting her part in the disagreement, she offered a so-called solution. She insisted that the only way she could move past what she viewed as an offense was if we let her host a baby shower for us. This unexpected proposition left both of us shocked and doubtful about her true intentions. She went on about how nothing would make her happier than organizing a grand event for me and her grandchild, assuring us she'd handle every detail. Gary glanced at me, curious, but I remained doubtful, sensing something disingenuous in her sudden change of tone. To me, Barbara's dramatic shift felt more like a calculated move to reassert control than a sincere effort to make amends. Despite my hesitation, Gary, ever the peacekeeper, was open to the idea, hoping it might serve as a step toward reconciliation and foster a more peaceful family dynamic before the baby arrived. I reluctantly agreed, and Gary let his mother know she could proceed with planning the baby shower. She was thrilled and expressed how thankful she was to be given the reins. Even though she was given the responsibility, I assumed she would at least include me in the planning process and take my preferences into account for what was supposed to be my special day. With a month still to go before the event, I expected that the detailed preparations would be a collaborative process. But to my disappointment, I soon realized my mother-in-law had taken matters entirely into her own hands. She independently purchased decorations, picked out games, and planned activities, all without consulting anyone, not even me. When my mother tried to reach out and discuss the event, my mother-in-law bluntly informed her that every decision had already been made and that the whole thing would be a surprise for me. Her complete lack of communication and disregard for my input left me feeling overlooked and frustrated. What was meant to be a joyful celebration now felt like a carefully curated spectacle that excluded the very person it was supposed to honor. The day of the baby shower arrived, and although excitement was in the air, so was an underlying tension. The event was held at a local banquet hall, where I was joined by close friends who were eager to celebrate the upcoming arrival of our baby. But as soon as I walked in, I was met with a scene that left me stunned. The decorations, an overwhelming flood of brown and beige balloons, created an awkward, almost somber tone. The theme, entirely my mother-in-law's invention, seemed like a misguided attempt at a safari motif that had gone completely awry. It clashed with the soft, pastel, and gentle aesthetic I had envisioned for the celebration. The discomfort only escalated when I noticed a massive display near the entrance, an enormous banner featuring a collage of my husband's baby photos with Barbara. Guests stared at it in confusion, as no one could understand why she had chosen to spotlight his childhood during my baby shower. I looked at her in disbelief, and she brushed it off with a laugh, saying she expected our baby to look just like Gary, and that she was proud of how adorable he was as a child. She wanted everyone to see that. I stood there trying to process whether she had truly lost her mind. It was clear this event had become more about her journey as a mother than celebrating the birth of our child. As more guests arrived, their faces reflected a mix of polite confusion and subtle unease. The room, drenched in dull colors and dominated by the towering tribute to Barbara's past, felt miles away from the cheerful and elegant ambiance I had hoped for. I exchanged embarrassed glances with my friends, who clearly shared my discomfort. When my mother walked in, her eyes widened in disbelief as she took in the chaotic decor and the attention-seeking banner. Her gaze locked onto the display, and I could immediately sense her outrage. In a bold move, my mother walked straight to the banner, her expression shifting from stunned to resolute. Without saying a word, she firmly grabbed it and took it down, removing it from its place of honor. The room fell silent, all eyes now on her as she calmly carried the banner away. I was overwhelmed with gratitude for her support. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law, who had been chatting with guests, turned in horror as she saw my mother discard the banner into the trash. "What do you think you're doing?" she snapped. "That banner was a special touch to honor the baby and the family." Unfazed, my mother replied in a calm yet firm tone, "This celebration is about my daughter and her baby, not a stage for your personal nostalgia." The room was hushed as guests watched the confrontation unfold, clearly unsettled. Sensing her control slipping, Barbara tried to save face. "Well, I just thought it would be nice for everyone to know who made this wonderful event happen," she said, trying to sound gracious. "I wanted them to see how adorable Gary was." But my mother wasn't backing down. "Barbara, you begged my daughter to let you host this after the way you treated her. This is her baby shower, not a showcase for your personal legacy or an attempt to steal the spotlight." The tension in the room was thick as the two women stood face to face. Realizing the crowd was now fully tuned into the confrontation, Barbara stepped back with a forced smile and rejoined the other guests, trying to regain composure. From that point on, I did my best to focus on the guests and the positive energy from those who were genuinely there to support me. Although the atmosphere remained somewhat strained, we carried on with the celebration. I assumed the drama was over, but then came the gift opening portion. And yet another surprise was waiting. I was genuinely touched by everyone's thoughtful presence for my baby. However, my excitement quickly shifted to confusion when my mother-in-law handed me an unusually large gift box, wearing a theatrical grin. The room grew silent, and I felt a wave of embarrassment and irritation. My own mother shot her a disapproving look, while the guests exchanged uneasy glances, unsure how to respond to the unexpected moment. Trying to ease the tension and keep things civil, I forced a faint smile and thanked her for the gift, though inside, I was struggling not to roll my eyes. The situation worsened during the cake-cutting ceremony. My mother-in-law had gone all out, ordering a lavish, multi-tiered cake with exaggerated decorations. She clinked her glass to grab everyone's attention, clearly wanting the spotlight. We all turned to her, curious about what she'd say next. Then, Barbara made a bold announcement. She had chosen the perfect name for our baby girl. I was stunned. My husband and I hadn't even finalized a name yet. She proudly declared that the baby would be named after her great-grandmother, a name that sounded like it belonged in a Victorian-era novel. I was shocked and more than a little annoyed that she assumed she had naming rights. I stepped in gently, explaining that my husband and I wanted to choose our daughter's name together. It was a decision we felt should be ours as her parents. But Barbara wasn't willing to back down. She insisted her choice was ideal and claimed that, as a good daughter-in-law, I should accept it, especially since she'd spent so much money organizing the baby shower. Her entitlement stunned me. I calmly but firmly stated that only my husband and I had the right to name our child, and that regardless of who hosted the event, that decision belonged solely to us. That's when things truly spiraled. Barbara began yelling at me in front of everyone, accusing me of being disrespectful and ungrateful for everything she had done. She then launched into personal attacks, criticizing my upbringing and saying I should be thanking her instead of denying her the right to name the baby. Her behavior became increasingly aggressive. She pointed her finger in my face, shouting. My mother quickly stepped in to shield me, but Barbara wouldn't stop. She even claimed she was the baby's real mother, since she had given birth to my husband, and it was his sperm that got me pregnant. Her words were appalling and deeply inappropriate. Despite my mother's efforts to calm her down, Barbara's anger only intensified. She hurled more insults, even attacking my mother's parenting. It became obvious that she was heavily intoxicated. Trying to reason with her was pointless. The atmosphere became more hostile by the minute. Realizing how far things had gone and wanting to preserve what little dignity I had left, I decided it was time to leave. I began gathering the gifts my friends had brought, intentionally leaving behind Barbara's. But in her drunken rage, she grabbed the gifts from my hands and threw them on the ground, calling me ungrateful and accusing me of trying to drive a wedge between her and her son. As more guests grew uncomfortable, I noticed a few even began filming the unfolding chaos. Hoping to contain the situation, I quietly asked one of my close friends to encourage people to start leaving. Barbara, however, remained relentless, hurling outrageous accusations, making a public scene none of us had anticipated at what should have been a joyful celebration. Feeling increasingly unsafe, I made a last resort decision. I called the police. Yes, you read that right. I had to involve the authorities at my own baby shower because of my toxic mother-in-law. When the officers arrived, Barbara went into full dramatic mode, pointing fingers and trying to cast me as the villain. Thankfully, the police saw through her act and attempted to de-escalate the situation. But Barbara, still drunk, resisted and began yelling at the officers as well, which only made things worse for her. Eventually, she was arrested on the spot. I left the event shaken, accompanied by my mother and a few close friends. Since that day, my husband and I have been dealing with the aftermath. Barbara has gone into full victim mode, guilt-tripping and seeking sympathy from relatives who weren't even present. Many of them live in another city. Although my husband understands why I called the police, he feels I might have gone too far and thinks I should have contacted him or his father for help instead. So, Reddit, for calling the cops on my mother-in-law for ruining my baby shower and pretending to be the actual mom of my unborn child? Update 1? I've been overwhelmed by the support I've received after sharing what happened. Thank you to everyone who reassured me that calling the police was the right decision. I had never seen my mother-in-law behave so aggressively, probably because we only interacted during holidays and for short periods. What she did that day genuinely made me fear for my safety and that of my unborn baby. After the incident, nearly every guest from the party reached out to express their support. Some even shared videos they took during the ordeal, which I plan to show my husband. I'm preparing to have a serious conversation with him this weekend about what the future looks like in terms of contact with his mother. Update 2. As planned, I showed my husband the video. We sat down for a heart-to-heart conversation about everything that had happened. I walked him through the escalation, from the unsolicited gift to the out-of-line name reveal and everything that followed. He finally saw the full extent of her behavior, and it made a big difference. I explained in detail the shouting, accusations, and the peculiar gifts she presented. I then shared the recordings with him, which my husband watched in shock, visibly horrified. Watching the videos seemed to provide a reality check for him, forcing him to face the uncomfortable truth about his mother's behavior. He began to apologize earnestly, expressing regret for underestimating the gravity of the situation and acknowledging that I was right in involving the authorities. He said, "I had no idea it had gotten this bad. I'm so sorry you had to endure all of that." His face showed both remorse and frustration as he admitted he never expected his mother could act this way, as it seemed so out of character for her. He reassured me that he was on my side, emphasizing that my safety and well-being, especially during pregnancy, were his top priorities. We then delved into the deeper issues, discussing how his mother's need for control and validation had overshadowed what should have been a joyous occasion. Gary, grappling with the reality of his mother's actions, shared his own concerns about her behavior and acknowledged that she had crossed a serious line. I told him that after the way his mother behaved in front of everyone, I wanted to sever all ties with her. I explained that he could continue a relationship with her if he wished, but our child and I would not be a part of her life, at least until she went for counseling to address her aggressive behavior. Upon hearing this, Gary expressed that what his mother did was beyond reprehensible, and he was prepared to cut ties with her as well. I reassured him that he didn't have to go to such lengths, but he insisted that his mother had disrespected me, and therefore, she no longer had a place in our lives. He understood that this behavior wasn't just about the baby shower, but was likely the culmination of long-standing issues. Moving forward, Gary reassured me that he would personally communicate our decision to his mother, making it clear that cutting her off from our lives was entirely his choice. I also asked him to warn her that if she tried to show up unexpectedly at our doorstep, trying to force me to accept her back into our lives, I would be forced to call the police again. Update 3. It's been a month since my last update. To everyone asking, my baby and I are doing fine, and I can't wait to meet my little one soon as the due date approaches. Since my last update, we've ceased all communication with Barbara. Gary had a conversation with his parents, and his father assured him that he would take the necessary actions to ensure Barbara understands and respects the boundaries we've set. Since cutting ties with Barbara, our lives have noticeably shifted. The absence of constant drama and toxicity has brought peace and calm to our home. Gary and I can now focus on preparing for our baby's arrival without the constant interruptions of Barbara's behavior. The support we've received from friends and family has been invaluable during this tough time. My parents and close friends have been pillars of strength, offering their support and understanding. Even some family members who initially didn't know the extent of Barbara's actions have now stepped forward to show their support after seeing the shocking footage from the baby shower that has gone viral. Our journey isn't over, but this experience has strengthened our relationship and shown us the importance of facing challenges together as a united team. The decision to sever ties with Barbara wasn't an easy one, but it has proven to be essential for our well-being. While there may still be challenges ahead, we are optimistic about the positive changes this decision has brought to our lives. As we eagerly await the arrival of our little one, we are determined to build a loving and supportive family environment that prioritizes the well-being of both parents and child.